Hey guys, Jay and Anthony here with AC Fly Fishing. We're going to talk a little bit about the Jaydacator today.
The Jada Bobber.
The Jada Bobber. We're going to go over the different sizes, when we'd use the different sizes, how to rig them, and how they work.
And talk about a little bit just why we like them so much. Yeah. So we should probably start with that. So majority of the fishing that we do in Northern California, a lot of the trout fishing you're going to do most places to catch a majority of the trout is going to be subsurface. So suspending your flies below the surface a little ways. And there's been all sorts of indicators over the years, yarn, plastic bubbles, a lot of different things. Jay started making these, what's it been, maybe 5 years, Jay? 5 years ago, you started making the first sample batches?
2013 was when I got the idea.
And we started playing with them for a couple years. Really, Jay has fine-tuned them over the last 5 years, 6 years.
And these guys have helped me fine-tune them, you know, testing, telling me what works, what doesn't.
The majority
work.
of the fishing we do up here in Northern California is subsurface, like we were saying, right? So we have the opportunity to fish these in a lot of different scenarios, the big, fast river in the lower Sac and the tiny spring creeks and Fall River, and there's a lot of different applications for them. They're super versatile, and the biggest thing about the indicators that we love, especially from a guiding standpoint, is they help our guests understand what their flies are doing below the surface, whether they're 2 feet under or 10 feet under. The indicators, the way they're designed, the way they float, it gives you a lot of information to help understand what your flies are doing 5 to 10 feet below the surface, which is extremely helpful for us as guides, and then the guests understanding what's happening, as opposed to maybe looking at just a big piece of yarn or a big plastic bubble that's going to look the same the whole time. So I think you should break it down a little bit, Jay, on what their function.
We make them in 3 different sizes, 3 standard sizes, small, medium, large. We use the large on the Sac mostly.
And steelhead fishing.
And steelhead fishing, yep.
Holds a little more weight.
Definitely holds more weight. The medium we use like on the Trinity, the Pitt River, just smaller, medium-sized water. And then the smalls are great for like Hat Creek. You can even get away with like some areas on the Pitt River and the upper Sac and the McLeod with the smalls. Yeah. The small and the medium are kind of a good versatile size because the cool thing about balsa wood is it's light and it floats a lot of weight. So you'd be surprised on how much weight you can get away with.
And
with
one
just
thing
small.
too, compared to yarn and the bubbles, the thingamabobbers, they punch through the wind a lot better. So when we have guests throwing maybe a heavier setup and 2 or 3 flies behind that on the leader, those things penetrate the wind and they turn our rigs over a lot better than a big air-resistant bubble would. So that's a big part of why we like them too. You know? And
just because when the line goes through the bobber, it actually makes it easier to cast. It's a better casting bobber in itself.
Right. So what he's referring to is they're threaded. Your leader's going to go straight through the top and straight out the bottom with your flies weight below them, not off the side, not at a 90. So the biggest thing that we like is they tell us what our flies are doing. If our flies are floating downstream, it's going to lean and it's going to point to where they are. We're going to mend downstream in that scenario. So it tells you a lot about what's happening below. The color coordination, 2 different colors, top and bottom, help that really to be easily distinguished.
Yeah. Like when your flies are hanging straight down and your weight's not dragging on the bottom, like in the flats and the Sac, this thing will sit straight up. If you mend accordingly and you get this sucker to sit straight up,
you can almost count down. Yeah. And when guests pick that up at the end of the day, this all makes sense.
They're like, there it is. Right, it's going to go down any second now.
And you're in the spot, you're going to get bit.
If your weight's dragging on the bottom, the top of the bobber is going to point downstream and it's going to tell you that your weight's dragging a little bit. And that's okay. In some scenarios, fish will still eat it. Sometimes in that scenario, we'll just do like a half mend and we'll let it just grind along the bottom and that'll help it from hanging up. So,
but a lot of scenarios, and the big thing is it just tells you what's happening down there. So the 3 sizes, you could float a lot of weight under a large, and the little tiny ones we fish on the fall and some of the spring creeks, and fish aren't going to spook to that little one nearly like they would a big one. So versatile, super versatile. Yeah,
you just the size and depth and speed of the water just dictates the size of the indicator that you're going to use. Big water, big bobber; medium water, medium bobber; and small water, small bobber.
You want to go over the rigging real quick, Jay, and just kind of the leader on how we rig that thing here?
So each pack comes with bobber stops and toothpicks, so you have the option of using both. Some people prefer bobber stops. Some people prefer the toothpick.
A little bit of both. Yeah.
Anthony's a little bit of both. He likes to use both. So we'll show you. A lot of people are a little confused on how the bobber stops work, and we're going to go over that with you real quick and show you how to put them on, and how they work, and how to adjust your bobber on the leader with the bobber stops. And then I'll go over the toothpick too. The toothpick's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty simple. A lot of guys have been using toothpicks for a long time to peg their bobbers on their leader. Works fine. It's all kind of a personal preference thing. So that's why you have the option of using both. And there's also some directions on the back of the pack here that explain on how to use the stops and how to use the toothpick as well. So we'll go over bobber stops first. They come on these little rings, and there's 6 stops on each one.
They can be really confusing for some people, like Bucko. Pretty confusing. But they're real simple to apply. It's a one-time use. You throw them on once. And
that's another thing, is they're one-time use. Once you put them on, that's it. You don't get a second chance.
So to live on the leader for the life of it.
So the first thing that I do before I even start putting them on is, when they come from wherever they come from, it's good to just grab this plastic part and twist these wires just to get them a little tighter, because sometimes when you go to pull the stop on it, the wire will pull off this little plastic piece. And this little plastic piece is just to hold on to. So pretty simple. You're just going to take your leader and you're going to put it through this. I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a little loop right here. The wire is a loop, and the bobber stop is threaded onto the wire. And you're going to just put the leader through the loop here, and then you're going to grab the stop and you're just going to pull it onto the leader just like that. Pretty simple.
Boom.
So you can't get away with just using one on each side of the bobber, because they just don't have enough friction and they will slide around over time. So we use...
And especially in that, and again, that depends on the diameter of the leader and the butt section you're fishing.
Yeah, and the size of the bobber too.
Right.
The bigger ones, obviously...
More force behind it on a hook set.
When you're water loading and hook setting and stuff, it's going to have more friction, so you're going to need more bobber stops. So we're just going to put 3 on here first. Like that. And then you're going to slide your bobber on, your Jaydacator, through the leader there, like that. And then you're going to put the rest of them on there.
Or, like I like to do, I like to take the toothpick just in the top, break it off, and peg this guy at the top end. So you're tight there. And that toothpick, that little post is going to help you determine a little bit of direction. But that's simple. Some guys like to put bobber stops above as well. Really, and another really cool thing is it's super easy to adjust. You're not kinking your leader and having to slide a grommet up and down with a loop. So you want to adjust. Something we do a lot on the Sac and all the rivers we fish is we adjust. We'll fish 2 feet deep in some spots. We'll fish 8 feet deep in some spots. So really easily, you're grabbing those rubber bobber stops, sliding them down or up, and the indicator follows. So it makes it really, really convenient for adjusting your depths.
So that's what it looks like when it's all done. Bobber stops on either side. A lot of guys will put more bobber stops on the bottom than the top, and that also helps it from sliding down on hook sets. But to move your bobber, it's pretty simple. You're just going to grab it, push it down. The stops that are on the down or upstream side, when you push it, will just slide. And then you got to grab the ones that you just left and push those down to this bobber as well. And that's it. You want to move it the other direction, you just do the opposite.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
This is what it looks like on a medium. You can rig this up on a tapered leader, or you can use like 15 or 20 pound. Whatever your heart desires. I personally like tapered leaders. These guys like to use
straight chunka
fluoro.
But it's really depending on the scenario that you're fishing. You can adjust it accordingly. Super simple, extremely effective. They're absolute game changers for us. We fish the shit out of these things. Most guys that are fishing big, heavy water, if they have a little experience with them, they'll tell you it makes a big difference fishing these things.
The way I like to do it is I just thread it onto my butt section, and I just stick a toothpick in the bottom of it like that. And sometimes you can get away with just sliding it with the toothpick in. Sometimes when you slide it up,
out over time.
Yeah, when you slide it up, you got to hold the toothpick so it doesn't pop out. If it's not sliding easily, take the toothpick out, slide it, and then stick the toothpick back in. If it's sliding around on you with just the toothpick, just pop it out and turn the toothpick a little bit and then stick it back in. Bury it back in there. Because over time, from moving it back and forth, it'll get a little groove in that toothpick, and that's why it'll start sliding. But when the toothpick gets wet, it also will swell up, and that also helps it stick in there a little bit better. But the other reason why I stick it in the bottom, or the main reason why I stick it in the bottom, well, there's actually two reasons. When you're casting it around and setting the hook, if the bobber tries to slide down, the toothpick actually will wedge in there a little bit tighter. If it's in the top and it starts to slide down, sometimes it'll pop that toothpick out. Plus, if there's nothing sticking out of the top, there's less, the line can't hook on it as easily. Like just say you make a roll cast and it doesn't quite turn over on you. We've all done that. Sometimes the flies will land on top of the leader. And a lot of times when that happens, if you just lift and drag the bobber back, the leader above the bobber, because there's no toothpick sticking out, it'll just slide off on you. It's just one less thing you got to worry about. It doesn't hang up quite as easily.
A lot of different ways to rig them, a lot of different ways to fish them. We love them a whole lot. They're awesome. They're made by Jay in Truckee, California. Balsa wood. We love them. Yeah,
balsa wood is it's lighter than wood, or it's lighter than foam. Sorry. And
it's a light ass wood.
It's a light wood, and it floats a lot of weight. That's the benefits of wood.
So if you guys want to get yourself a few Jaydacators, we got them listed on our website now. Put an order in, fish them. Understand, you spend a few days fishing them, you'll understand why we like them so much. Again, you can go to our website. There'll be a link at the bottom of this thing. I think that's most of it, huh, Jay?
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell, definitely.
Awesome. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you later.
Thanks.